Yes, my dear friends, in this lesson we will create our first interface window using the Pygame module. So let's get started. Of course, we must first include the Pygame module in our Python file. So you see here. Then, if you want to use all functions, classes or special variables in the Pygame module, we need to prepare the Pygame module. For this, we use the init function. So here is the init function, and if we want to call init function first, what we have to do now is to call our module name and then put a dot and let's call init function. This function does not take any parameters and its job is to initialize the functions we will use in the whole module. So far we have imported our module and called our init function to use all of its functions. So here, after importing and initializing our module, we need to define the width and height values to create a window. For this, we need to create a tuple and define the width and height values respectively in the tuple. So you see here. As you can see, we created a tuple called size and set the width value to 450 and the height value to 360. Of course, after defining our window size, what we need to do is call our function to create our window. The name of our function is setMod function, and our function is located in the display file in the Pygame module. So here, if we want to call the setMod function, first we should call Pygame module, and in the Pygame module there is a display.python file, and also we need to call this Python file, and in this Python file there is setMod function, and if we want to create a window we should call setMod function. In the setMod function we need to define a single parameter, and that parameter is the tuple where we set the window size. Let's examine. As you can see, we called our setMod function and defined the size tuple inside the function. So here, of course, we also need to define our function in a variable. The reason is we will need this variable when we want to make changes to the interface window we created. So here, the name of our variable is window. Now that we have called our function to create an interface window, what needs to be done is to loop. So why? Today, when we want to make a game, make changes to our interface window, or want to keep the window on the screen, we need to loop. Otherwise, our window is created or closed directly. If we want to keep our window on the screen and move it the way we want, we need to create a for loop inside the loop and call the get function in the event file. Let's examine and interpret our code. When we examined our code, we first created a variable called status and set its value to true. So here. Thus, our loop will run continuously and the loop will not end until we close our interface window. For this reason, we provided the loop control based on the status variable. All the operations we do in the Pygame module are kept in the get function in the event file. So you see here, examples are mouse movements, window zooming or closing, or keyboard movements. If we want to view all the activities we have done, we must create a for loop, so you see here, and access the data in the get function. For this, we created an element variable called event, so here, and have it replace the data in get. So you see here. Also, this get function is a list. If we want to show the activities in the interface window, we should call our for loop, and we need to get events in the pygame.event.get function. And also, if you want to display the events of interface window, we have output the event variable with the print function to display the events we have done. And also, if we run our code like this, we will be able to view all events on the console screen. For example, let's check our code now. And you see, if the mouse cursor is on the interface window, and you see we can show mouse position like this. And also, if we click the close button of window, and you see we got the output as quit. So it looks perfect. So now let's continue. If we look at the terminal, you see when we navigate with the mouse we can output up to the coordinate information. So you see here. Of course, we also need to close the windows we have created. For this, we need to make use of the type data defined in the event variable. So here, we created our condition. So you see here, and in the condition, set the status variable to false if the event.typeState is equal to the window close variable. Pygame.quit variable is the cross button in the rendered window. Finally, let's say we close our window and end our loop. In this case, what needs to be done is to call the quit function in Pygame. Its task allows us to close the Pygame module which we started with the init function and no parameters need to be defined. So here. Alright my dear friends, in this lesson we learned how to create interface windows using Pygame module. So now let's move on to our other lesson and let's learn more about Pygame module.